In today's show, Eric Griffith of the Willamette Week returns. We talk about the Blazers retaining Anfernee Simons and Yusuf Nurkic and the direction of the team all off-season long. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazer reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Blazers your first listen every single day. Today's show, more of my conversation with Eric Griffith. He was on the show Friday. We talked all about the Blazers cap situation, kind of laid out the specific financials of what the Blazers summer is going to look like. But he's back for Monday's show, when we're going to talk a little about more of the direction of the franchise. So without further ado, let's get into it. Joining me now, contributor to the Willamette Week and host, or not even host, but a former writer for Blazers Edge, Eric Griffith. That's Eric G_NBA on Twitter. Eric, how you doing?
Doing good, Mike. How you doing?
Oh, great. Feels like we've done this before. Happy Monday. This is Monday's show.
Did we change shirts?
No, everyone will know anyways. If you're listening to the show or you're watching on YouTube, Eric joined the program for Friday's show, and I made him stick around for Monday's show too, because we're having some fun here. Friday's show, if you missed it, and you didn't because you're a loyal listener, but if you did happen to miss it, we laid out the whole cap situation, what the Blazers' money is they have to spend this summer, and kind of the direction they'll go. So go listen to that when you'll kind of get a sense of what is ahead for the Blazers this summer. Eric, I think in general, you are a realist, but tending towards pessimism on the spectrum. I say that with respect as someone who's a true pessimist. What excites you about this Blazers team right now? Give me the other side of the coin, please, if you're capable.
Yeah, no. I think one of my biggest disappointments for the last several seasons has been I don't feel like there's much upside to the roster, and especially if you look at it from with the salary cap centric view and watching the team, for instance, sit on 14 players or not use all of their necessary exceptions. I like from a pure money perspective, I was struggling to see any kind of upside to this team. Yeah. I was not convinced that from 2017 to 2018 to 2019 they were getting better in any. I think they kind of spiked by luck, and not by luck, but I think it kind of spiked the one time they invested money in Rodney Hood and Enes Kanter. But otherwise, it's just more or less, 40-something wins and losing the first round for eternity. Yeah. Not fun.
No. And I think if you have Damian Lillard on the roster, you win 38 games. So you're talking about like the other folks help you win 5 more. You win 43 games and you're pretty good. So yeah, I hear you. So you watched Joe Cronin tear it down. You watched him straight up salary dump, like NBA contributors in Norman Powell and Robert Covington, whatever Norman Powell was making, but you watched him salary dump, and you said, okay, this gives us, I don't want to use flexibility because that's like such a front office word, but it gives the Blazers a ability to, make other financial decisions. And you said, okay, I get it. I believe in the plan. Like this excited you, or made you feel like there's some hope?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's too early to grade these decisions at all. I think we can all look back and see, hey, maybe it would have been better to hang on to that CJ trade until the offseason and maybe try to get a more secure pick out of it. There's some nitpicking we can do, but overall, we don't really know. We talked about this on Friday. We don't really know what their level of commitment to building out this full roster is yet. And I think now there's the possibility that they are going to build a complete roster. I think when we had Neil Shea around, you couldn't hope that they're going to use the mid-level exception to sign someone for 3 seasons. Just very basic things like that weren't even on the table. And so at the very least, we're going into this offseason, and we know now that they are willing to be more active, and we know now that maybe they will use the multi-level exception. And so I don't think the team has improved yet, obviously, but I see the possibility that they are willing to improve. And as a fan, that makes me excited truly excited for the first in way too long, honestly, in hundreds of games.
If they sign Damian Lillard to a 2-year, $100 million max extension, how much does your excitement change?
Yeah, so I think my concern. So this is like, so if you want the other side of it, like what the pessimists
yeah. I'm coaxing it out of you now. Give it to me.
So my pessimistic concern is that we hit reset on everything. We try a different path, but end up in the same place anyway. And that you can see that path happening. You can see, okay, Damian Lillard starts to maybe slide down. Maybe he's 90% of the player he used to be in a year or two.
Yeah,
And then
I've used the idea that if he was top 10 before, what if he's top 17? And like, what is the difference between the 16th best player in the NBA and the 8th best player in the NBA?
Exactly. And then you add, okay, great. Anfernee Simons is improving, but Anfernee Simons peaks at maybe 110% of what CJ McCollum brings, and brings very similar game to what CJ brought. And so now we're back at the same place. The overall net value and net skill of Dame and Anfernee, like a mature Anfernee Simons, is that different than Dame and CJ in 2017? And then how do you build a roster around paying those two $80+ million a season, paying them half of your salary cap? And then you toss in Nurkic, who is also in his own way a limited player, but we've seen how he needs offensive involvement to stay engaged, or he starts to kind of fall, like he starts to lose motivation on the defensive end. It seems we saw that last year in Denver. So you have these three guys who demand the ball, must have the ball, getting paid over $100 million. How do you build a team around that? And I think that would be my pessimistic take, is it's very possible that's what we see in 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that an offseason where you pay Anfernee Simons, you pay Damian Lillard, and you pay Yusuf Nurkic feels a lot like a Neil Olshey offseason. Like that doesn't feel like a regime change and a whole big shift and all this things. And like, I think the approach has changed. Trading CJ McCollum is a massive pivot from what the previous group would have done. But pay Nurk, pay Ant, pay Dame that's what Neil would have done. Like that's it. And I think that might change the way you view things. If Ant's making, Bobby Marks mentioned on ESPN, this is on ESPN Insider. So it's behind a paywall, but I'll bring it out from the paywall. More aggregating. Apologies. We did it on Friday. We're doing it again here. He said that Ant is projected, or from whatever his connections, Ant projected in the 6 or the 5 for 90 Norman Powell range, and that quote might feel like an overpay. I think 5 for 90, the Blazers should ink 5 for 90 immediately, right?
Yeah, I think so. I do. Something to watch is this scoring right now is at less of scoring skill is at less of a premium right now in the NBA than it has been in recent memory, because there's so many guys who can score really well on the perimeter, and because of the ways the rules encourage these perimeter scorers. So I think you have to take into account it's going to be very possible to find someone like Seth Curry. So right. How much do you pay Anfernee Simons before it becomes more efficient to sign 2 Seth Currys? I think Seth Curry's, making right around mid-level money. And so if you can lock in Anfernee Simons at 175% of mid-level money, I think that makes sense. And so that I would feel good about that, honestly.
Yeah, I think if they get him if they 5 for 90, if they get 5 for 90, that is such a team friendly deal. I think Ant's going to push towards, I think I at one point guessed 5 for 95, and I'll probably just stay there because I value consistency on this program. But
I mean, you see Bridges is, he's already asking for max money. And so, and you have to wonder, what, the Blazers also have to take that into account. They can't insult Simons and his agent. And so honestly, 5 for 90, I would I think on my imaginary cap sheet over here, I think I have him at 23 million was my reasonable guess. So yeah, I'd be thrilled with 5 for 90.
Yeah. I think it's what you're in baseball. They do those terrible arbitration meetings where you just tell a player on your current roster that he's not good. It's really bad for the sport. But I think if you're, you say, if you're from the Blazers side, it's only 2 months. It was just January and February. And if you're on the Ant side, it's you didn't let him play. He got too good to play. Know what you did. So I would imagine, hopefully 5-year contract. I would try to lock Ant up for as many years as possible, but I think 5 for 100 is where I would probably guess it starts.
Yeah. And just for some quick back of the napkin math, for those who aren't versed in NBA calculators, 5 for 90 would be an average of $18 million a year. So with with those 8% raises, we're assuming that starts around probably 17 million, which, that I would imagine that's probably what Nurkic is going to demand. And I think at this point, we know Simons is a better player than Nurkic. I feel confident saying that now. So I think you smash yes on 5 for 90. And even 5 for 100 is still going to start at around 18 million, which again feels pretty safe. If you have to look at the mid-level exceptions 10 and a quarter, signing Ant for 18. That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, I'm with it. I'm with it. I want to ask you about the Anfernee Simons and Damian Lillard pairing. I want to take a second to tell you about Athletic Greens. It's a product that I literally started my day with today. What I do is I grab a scoop of Athletic Greens, put it in a cup of water, and get started so I can have better gut health, more energy, and just optimize my immune system. You might be asking, yo, what is Athletic Greens? Well, AG1 is a delicious scoop that you just put in your drink every morning, and you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins and minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. Special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, all of those things. Listen, it gets you feeling better right away. Plus, it has got that mild tropical flavor, so it's not too vegetal. It's certainly not chalky. It tastes good and it's easy for you. It supports better sleep quality and recovery, supports mental clarity and alertness. It's one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. Plus, AG1 is a small micro habit with big benefits. It's that one thing you can do every single day to take care of yourself. So right now, reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. The days of reading multivitamin ingredient lists are done. You can do it all with AG1. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NBA network. That's athleticgreens.com/NBA network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Today's show also brought to you by betonline.net, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. More lines, more props, more odds than anywhere else. The NBA playoffs are rolling along. Games literally every single night. It's my favorite time of year, and it is made more fun if you get in on the action at betonline.net. If you don't want to bet on basketball, literally every single other sport, or you can even just go to their website and play your favorite Vegas casino games. Play a little blackjack. Why not? So don't wait. Go take advantage today. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. So we're still chatting here with Eric Griffith of the Willamette Week. More of my conversation without messing around. Let's pop back into me and Eric's chat. Do you worry that while Ant might be better than CJ, like, I don't know if he is right now. I don't think he is personally right now, but like, I think he could be in a couple months. Like, I don't think it's outrageous to say this time next year, you'll say, yeah, of course, Anfernee Simons is better than CJ. Like, but today, I don't think he is necessarily. Do you worry that Ant and Dame is the same thing as Dame and CJ?
Yeah, I do. And I think you have to worry about the perimeter defense. Every advanced metric we have shows that the reality is Dame and Ant are two of the worst defenders in the NBA. That's what every advanced metric we have says. I know we can argue about the eye test all day. Dame definitely turns up his defensive intensity at times, and he's smart enough and skilled enough to make some good defensive plays. But on a play-by-play basis, he does not do that. And
I would say Dame is worse on the eye test than he is on the numbers, and the numbers say he's really bad. I think if you watch Dame really closely, like if you're committed to watching him on defense, there are times when you're like, oh no. And I'll do it from press row a lot. I'll just be like, I'm gonna watch Dame the whole first quarter. I'm gonna watch his defensive possessions. And there are times when it doesn't work out. There's also times when you've seen him say, I'm gonna guard Malcolm Brogdon and he's not gonna score. Like, he's capable of it, but the NBA season's long, and what does the ask look like for Dame on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, and he has the strength too. I think much like Chris Paul, maybe his biggest defensive strength is that he is unreasonably strong for his size, and you can see him body guys who are bigger than him, just like Chris Paul. So he does have that capacity when you need it. And I think if you're looking at a superstar, you can get by with that. But you want to pair him. You want to pair James Harden and Joel Embiid, and so you want Dame to be paired with some defensive stalwarts, and that ain't Anfernee Simons. And so that's where I start to worry, is when you have these two honestly very low tier players and you're asking them to be your two best defensive players and you're asking them to be your two best, how many games can you win with that if you don't have three all defensive guys playing alongside them?
Exactly. I think that's the thing. And Cronin kind of mentioned this. It's like the ceiling for this team will be the complementary parts, like the role players and everything else, because he thinks that they can be, you know, a top 2 offense in the league. And I kind of think if Dame is healthy, you're something in the top 10 on offense. They were way worse this year. I have no idea what to do with Chauncey Billups' first season as head coach. I feel like it was bad, but then I also like just recognize all of the weird stuff that happened. Started really slow. Dame never got hurt. The whole league got COVID. Then no one played after December 31st.
But I think what's concerning is the team started out very bad.
They were the worst defense in the league immediately. Yeah.
And they didn't improve at all. Like, so that we had a decent sample size of 30 something games with, you know, CJ was hurt, Nurk was hurt off and on, but it was most of the roster was there. And we didn't really see any improvement over from October to December on defense.
And I would argue that they had better defensive personnel than the season prior when they were 28th or whatever, 27th, 28th. Like, but
yeah, I think it was Kevin O'Connor tweeted out that chart where they had the worst drop coverage defense in the NBA or whatever, and or not drop coverage, the worst. I think it was the worst hedging coverage in the NBA, and they were doing it 3 times as often as any other team or something insane. So there was some like fatal schematic errors that must be resolved. And if Chauncey is not the guy to resolve those, or, you know, Scott Brooks or whoever out next to him is not the guy to resolve those, there will be dramatic issues next year. And that's kind of the reality of the NBA. Coaching can't win you a title, but it can sure lose you one.
I think that is the actual impact of coaching, is that it probably only affects, you know, right at the margins. Like it makes a really good team better, like see Eric Spoelstra, right? Like that roster kicks ass. You add Spoelstra in, they're incredible. And they win a million games with Gabe Vincent, right? Like and Max Strus, because coaching matters, but like they have Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Like they're incredible. They have talent-wise, they're awesome too. You see it with, I think the Celtics are a great example as well. That roster is awesome. It didn't really make sense how bad they were in the past. And I don't think like adding Al Horford, although he was really good for them, I don't think that was like the difference in them being a mediocre team versus whatever second in the East. The coach unlocks a little bit. There is a chemistry factor of coaching that isn't just X's and O's. And then there's the X's and O's stuff. And both of those things, like all of that goes into the soup. I think the chemistry stuff was off always with the Blazers, and I'll blame that on, I will choose to give it a pass because of all the bizarre circumstances around the team. Right. Mm-hmm. But the X's and O's stuff was a little alarming too. And I think you've got to get that right. And because, like you said, like the Blazers aren't going to be a high-end talent team. They're probably going to be a middle-of-the-road talent team, if not a little bit worse. So you do kind of need the coaching to pick up on the margins to clear up for some of their shortcomings.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I think, so the optimist in me says next year, if everything goes right, the Blazers could end up around 6. They could avoid the play-in next year if they really nail it. But this is the first time in a while there's true like bottom out, like everything goes wrong potential going into a season. For the second year in a row, because the coaching is a true wild card, especially with a young and new roster. And I think that a lot of very valid critiques leveled against Terry Stotts, but I think the way that his coaching mitigated a total disaster of a season from ever really happening is an underappreciated it's like we just took it for granted eventually.
Yeah, that they were going to be at least mediocre. Like they never were going to jump into that top tier, but they were going to be at least mediocre every season because of one, probably just his conservative defensive approach, like gave them a baseline of like, we're going to be bad, but we're not going to be horrific. And we're just going to like at least force harder shots. We're not going to give up so many layups and 3-pointers. I think by the end of Terry's run, he did his worst coaching, and that's why he lost his job. And like, I just like it is what it is as a results-based business. And it was time for both parties to move on. But, I have no idea what to make of Chauncey. I think Chauncey is one of the biggest wild cards for this because early in the season, I was drinking the Kool-Aid. When he talked about basketball, I was like, I love this. Like this dude speaks he's saying the things I want to hear. And then I like saw it in practice and I'm like, wait, what on earth is this? And then they gave it, and then the second half of the season happened and it's like, well, sorry, I don't think a Brandon Williams Drew Eubanks pick and roll is exactly what that, like, I'm not going to figure out the secret sauce here. And you just strip them of any chance of being competitive, that it didn't matter.
Yeah. And, I think that's really important what you just said, Mike, because I've seen opinions about the coaching, about the team, about these players based on what happened over the last 25 games. Like, oh, maybe Johnson's going to be really good. Those of us who have been on the blogosphere for long enough remember Ramon Sessions, putting up 30 assists in, what was it, 2009, 2010 in game 79 or whatever, and getting paid I think he got paid based off those 30 assists in one game.
Yeah.
And we have to play a Ramon Sessions rule here and just throw out everything that happened after about January 1st and just not, like, it just doesn't count to me as far as next season.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you saw Nas and you saw Ant take a jump, and I think that's real, but like there's just so many of those games that were just out of control. They lost something like 11 games by 30 points after the turn of the year. Like, it's just, they got smoked so many times that it's just like, this is not the same. We're not watching the same sport anymore. Let's wrap up here and I'll let you get out of here. You joined for back-to-back programs here, so we really we owe you a little bit of freedom. What is your, I don't know, like, dream, but like, what is your ideal off-season look? Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market. I've been telling you about Built Bars for a long time. I've been eating them regularly for over 2 years. It's been a pretty regular staple of my midweek snacks, because I like them because they boost your blood sugar and they pack a punch with 17 or 18 grams of protein, but they're not going to fill you up with a bunch of empty calories. Only 130, 180 calories. Most of the bars that I'm eating under 150 calories, no problem. Just 4 grams of sugar and 4 net carbs. I've got some personal favorites. I really like peanut butter brownie. That's pretty much always in my home, but you're going to find something you like as well. I know some of my friends over at the Locked On Network, they swear by mint brownie. They love coconut almond puff and coconut brownie puff. When those are available, they are all over them. So listen, if they're popular with something like 60 podcast hosts, they're probably going to be popular at least with somebody in your house. So why not give it a try? Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your next order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still chatting here with Eric Griffith. Let's get to the rest of my conversation. Eric was kind enough to stick around. He hung out with us on Friday's show. He's back for Monday's show. So let's get into it and talk about what's next and what he wants to see from a, quote, successful Blazers off season. What does your ideal off season look like? Like, you don't have to say like trade for Jeremy Grant or whatever, but like, what does sort of like parameters, big picture, broad brush, what does your ideal off season look like?
So I like what you said about Cronin being measured. I think that is true. And I would throw in, it's interesting that he comes off as measured, because I think the salary dumping was a little hasty this year. I think, for just at the very least, waiting until this summer so that the Pelicans could have given you because if you wait until the summer, the Pelicans could have offered their 2023 first round pick, for instance, as a fallback from the one the Blazers lost in the play-in game. So I think seeing more patience in situations like that, does he use the trade exception right away? If he does, was it a panic move? Or
we lost the Rip City. We lost it literally mid-record. The Rip City magazine fell down. If you're listening, I added that for Friday's show. I added that, and by Monday's show, it fell down and took a Rasheed Wallace print with it. But we'll keep going. So yeah, so if he uses that trade exception early on in the process, you'd be a little worried.
No, I wouldn't be worried. I would want to make sure that the value they got from it was like it's a good value player. And so I don't want to I want to see trades now that are very measured and that make sense and that we can't second guess. So I want to see them make very safe, secure moves that incrementally improve the team's talent. And I want to see them come out of this somehow with like some kind of draft capital. Like they just need more rookie scale contracts. And so I'm not necessarily looking at what players they get, but I'm looking for continued incremental improvement and no panic trades, no trades that push all the chips in prematurely. I want to see them think about what they're doing and slowly improve the team.
Yeah. I mean, he has talked about how building a roster could take a couple cycles, like trade deadline, off season, following trade deadline. So if that's real, and again, it's like, the same way I don't really know what to do with Chauncey, I don't know what to do with Joe. Like he's super aggressive. I thought the Norman Rocco trade was too early, too much, didn't need to do it. You could get under the salary cap with just doing the CJ trade, vice versa, whatever. that might look like. I think you kind of had to trade CJ just based on the situation, but like, I think you could find a salary dump for decent players making too much money at another point, whatever that might look like. But like, I also know that he's someone who like, he had a plan and went for it, but I don't know what to do if he had a plan and he struck out and he's like, maybe not good at this, or the bad luck of the Lakers being horrific and Brandon Ingram getting exceedingly hot for 2 quarters of one NBA game is like what changed the outcome for him. So I'm super curious if he does believe in that multiple cycles thing, and you get a little bit better in the summer, but you still have ammunition to get even better at the trade deadline. I'm willing to be patient, but I'm also like, I host a damn daily podcast. I'm going to be critical. I'm going to be critical along the way. I'll be patient.
But I think there's other like around the margin moves that we can watch that'll be interesting. So you and I DM'd a little bit about the Joe Ingles situation, because there's some, there's been some stuff floating around Twitter that they kept Joe Ingles around to stay over the salary cap, with his bird rights. And so I think, for instance, something they could do with Joe Ingles is when all the dust is settled, it's August 1st or September 1st, we're in that in-between training camp and the free agency period, and the Blazers are sitting either below the luxury tax or below the apron. They should offer, I think, Joe Ingles the remainder of whatever's left under the luxury tax, be it $10 million or $8 million or $7 million, offer him that money, and then add a team option for the same amount of money on the second year. And that creates a player in that slightly below or right at the mid-level exception level money that you can then trade, or you can aggregate with some other players that you can use to make a blockbuster trade later on. And those are the type of... Yeah,
you need those salaries.
Exactly. And those are the type of around the fringes moves that O'Shea chose not to make. That
he did it once with Rodney Hood. He signed Rodney. He gave Rodney Hood a raise, and then gave him a team option, and it allowed him to go get Norman Powell. Like that. Exactly. It specifically allowed him to make a trade. Gary Trent Jr. was the talent that made that trade possible, but Rodney Hood was the salary that allowed that trade to go through.
Exactly. And we can the Heat just did it with our our old friend Myers Leonard there. They offered him a 10+10 with the team option. They didn't end up trading him, but I very much doubt that Pat Riley regrets that decision. And so those are the type of things I hope the Blazers do. I hope the around the margins moves that are not flashy, that only the the nerds on Twitter like me are going to notice. I think those are going to be very symbolic of the team, of what direction the team is headed.
Yeah. Well, hey, follow Eric G_NBA, so you can find out what the nerds are excited about. Eric, thanks for joining the program. Appreciate you sticking around for 2 shows. If you didn't listen to Friday's show, we went all over the Blazers cap situation, and Eric walked us through it. It was really, really informative. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you're reading Willamette Week to read Eric's, I'll say it, measured takes. I don't want to call you the Joe Cronin of the Willamette Week, because that might end up being an insult. That'll look like a meme thing that I said in the future. So
check back in 2 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. Potentially the Joe Cronin, or whatever person we think is.
My editor might agree with you already. You have to ask him.
No, Mash, if you're listening, this is almost certainly better than Joe Cronin. No, read the Willamette Week. Follow him on Twitter, and we'll a recurring guest in the program. So I'll have you back soon, Eric. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Mike. It was great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Listeners, tell your friends about the show. Available wherever you get podcasts. Available on YouTube. Got more shows coming this week. It's what we do 5 days a week. Available wherever you get podcasts. Appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.